Shen Qinglan had just traveled for a month when she learned that her personal maid had been reborn. Does the future husband have an affair with his illegitimate sister? So why don't we just let this dog couple fly together? Will the future family be raided? Then hold on to the thicker thighs. Will the future mother die from difficult childbirth caused by her aunt? Then let her never turn over. I originally wanted to live a rich and prosperous life with my childhood sweetheart, but I had no intention of getting into trouble with a playboy prince. Unexpectedly, this playboy prince seemed to be mediocre and had nothing to do, but in reality, his dark web was everywhere, and his power was immense. The young prince lazily opened his arms to him and said, "Cece, you can't be my niece and daughter. Lol. I am more suitable for you." The little maid cried and said, "Miss, I can't afford to provoke the future 9,000 years old." 1v1 Sweet Pet, novel keyword. Amazing. After crossing time, my maid was also reborn without a pop-up window. It's amazing. After crossing time, my maid was also reborn. Download the complete TXT collection, it's amazing. After traveling through time, my maid was also reborn with the latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. The Crown Prince visits to seek marriage. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. The Crown Prince visits to seek marriage. Today is the 31st day of Shen Qinglan's inexplicable soul piercing. During this period, she sorted out the memories of the original owner and also clarified the current situation. She is the daughter of the first imperial merchant of this dynasty. In fact, in that era, the daughter of the imperial merchant could not be called expensive. After all, the scholars, farmers, merchants ranked last. Anyway, just worry-free food and clothing. She lay leisurely in bed, with some messy fruits and vegetables on the table next to her. "Miss, there's something I think I must tell you, even if you think I'm crazy after speaking." Shen Qinglan had a close maid named Yenner who grew up together since childhood. Seeing her serious appearance, Shen Qinglan lazily nodded. "Miss, tomorrow the crown prince will come to propose marriage. Please don't agree, just treat it as Yenner begging you." Yenner spoke with a crying tone and suddenly knelt down. "Why?" Yenner was crying with tears streaming down her face. Shen Qinglan stood up and helped her up. In fact, Shen Qinglan doesn't want to get married either. She just wore it for a while, and before she could fully enjoy her life, she wanted to marry a woman, which was not what she wanted in her heart. "Miss, maidservant. I know you may not believe it, but what I say is true. The reason why the Governor Meng's family wants to marry you is to plot for our Shen family's property. If you marry us for less than 3 years, you will be tormented by them and become an immature person. Moreover, our Shen family will also suffer from destruction." Yenner's expression was solemn, and Shen Qinglan took a deep breath and asked, "How do you know about this?" Yenner wiped away her tears with her sleeve and said, "Because I saw it. I saw it all with my own eyes. Miss, just listen to my advice." Shen Qinglan was shocked. It turned out that Yenner had been reborn. According to Yenner, she was reborn after death, and the time of her rebirth is similar to the time when Shen Qinglan traveled. Because Shen Qinglan herself also traveled through time, she didn't feel anything unusual about Yenner. The whole incident seems to have been caused by the rebirth of Yenner, and the fact that the soul of Shen Qinglan, the original owner, has not returned, has brought the current Shen Qinglan into this body. So, the foolish son of the prefect's family actually likes my illegitimate sister. They embezzled my dowry after I passed by, and together with several local officials, they raided our home and divided up the property of the Shen family. Shen Qinglan listened to Yenner say a lot and finally came to a conclusion. What kind of nonsense is this? It's so frustrating. Yenner nodded, afraid that her silly young lady wouldn't believe her, and added, "Don't believe Miss Eyre. She's not a good person, she's afraid she's already with her uncle. No, that dog man has gotten together. Really, Miss Shen Qingji is always attentive to Shen Qinglan without any issues, always asking for jewelry from her, and occasionally selling things badly, which makes her quite annoyed. Upon hearing her say this, Yenner expressed great shock. Her young lady has always had a good relationship with this illegitimate sister, wishing she could wear a dress. In her previous life, she was tricked by Miss Eyre and her family was ruined. Now, she even thinks that Miss Eyre is not a good person. Please tell me everything you have experienced in detail again so that I can sort it out and see how to solve it. Miss, do you believe what I said? Of course. She has gone through a journey herself. What's so strange about being reborn? Yenner was so excited that she was about to cry. The next morning, Shen Mansion was very lively. In the main hall, several elders below were laughing incessantly, but on the contrary, Lady Shen, who was sitting in the main seat, was unhappy. She didn't want her own legitimate granddaughter to marry into an official family. Those who became officials always looked arrogant and looked down upon these merchants, but she couldn't resist Shen Qinglan's liking. Why hasn't Cece come out yet? This girl is becoming more and more unruly. Shen Erfu said humanely. Shen Qinglan's nickname is Cece, and her family usually calls her that. Mrs. Shen, also known as Shen Qinglan's mother named Yinghui, has always been proud of her daughter's marriage. As long as one's own daughter marries into the prefectural office, she can suppress the resentment accumulated over the years and vent her anger on the Han family's mother and daughter. Han's name is Han Manyu, and she is the concubine of Shen Yan, the father of Shen Qinglan. Although she is a concubine, she is deeply favored by the Lord and has been a favored family for so many years. Today can also be considered a big day for the Shen family. In theory, the concubine is not worthy of appearing, but due to Shen Yan's favor, Han Manyu sat in the main hall in such a grand manner, causing Yinghui's chest to ache in anger. Yinghui, go and see what Cece is doing. It's almost time for the sun to rise. The Meng family is almost here, why hasn't she shown up yet? Look at your good daughter, who is not ambitious all day and doesn't even care about such a big thing. Shen Yan said to Yinghui. Han Manyu saw that Shen Yan was angry, so she quickly brought the teacup over and placed it in front of him, saying, Lord, please calm down. Cece is the legitimate daughter, so it's normal to be more spoiled. Shen Yan snorted coldly, what legitimate daughter? It's not as sensible as one's own illegitimate daughter. Yinghui also picked up the teacup and said coldly, no, we are Cece's legitimate daughter. We have always been served by maids and never touched the work of pouring tea and water. It's already late to wake up today, and it's also the girls' business. Why do we still rely on the girls? Shen Yan saw that Yinghui had something to say and mocked his caring concubine. Suddenly, a wave of anger surged over his head. Just as it was about to erupt, Madame Tai spoke up, all right. Today is a happy occasion. Don't make any noise. Let the Meng family laugh at us, the merchants, and we don't have any tutors. After hearing these words, Shen Yan could only suppress the anger in his heart. After a while of silence, the people from the Meng family in the prefect's mansion arrived. Yenner helped Shen Qinglan come over from the corridor and saw the dowry brought in by the Meng family. She was dissatisfied and said, in my previous life, I just gave you a few boxes of junk to fool us. Miss, you happily married me. I really don't deserve it for you. Shen Qinglan chuckled lightly and said, don't worry, your young lady won't be so narrow-minded in her life. Well, miss, you must believe what I say. Today, you must reject them with utmost sincerity. The two of them entered the main hall, and indeed, as Yenner said, the head of the Meng family did not attend the big matter of proposing a marriage. Only the foolish son of the Meng family, Meng Jingming, and his mother, Meng Wu, came. As Shen Qinglan entered, the noisy main hall temporarily quieted down. I saw Shen Qinglan wearing a light apricot-colored Sichuan brocade long dress, with a peach blossom pendant hanging at her waist, neatly combed double buns, and a pair of red agate earrings. The pure gold collar was carved with a phoenix flower pattern, and her 2 white and tender hands were also adorned with a pair of dark green jade bracelets. Even 2 small embroidered shoes were set with large pearls, and the pink carved jade was full of treasure, like a porcelain doll. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Shen Qinglan resolves to divorce. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Shen Qinglan resolves to divorce. Seeing Shen Qinglan dressed up like this, Shen Qingji in the corner was furious. She was also the daughter of the Shen family. Why did she only spend 10 taels of silver per month? Shen Qinglan, this idiot, these things will eventually belong to her, Shen Qingji. Thinking of this, Shen Qingji felt a little better in her heart. Cici is here. Meng Wuxia quickly got up and stepped forward, grabbed Shen Qinglan's hand, and secretly touched her jade bracelet. She already likes jade, but her own family and Meng's family are not wealthy. This kind of high-quality bracelet is simply unattainable for her. But now it's different. As long as Shen Qinglan marries into her Meng family, she has a way to make Shen Qinglan spit out all her dowry, and she can also lift her head in front of those officials and family members. Shen Qinglan noticed Meng Wu's greedy gaze and calmly withdrew her hand. She has been poor for 20 years, and finally traveled back to experience the feeling of being a wealthy woman. How could such a person take away her hard-earned wealth? Shen Qinglan turned away slightly and said, I have been thinking late. Please forgive me, elders. Where, it's common for young people to fall asleep. Sit down quickly. Meng Wu wanted to hold Shen Qinglan down, as if the Shen family courtyard was her own. Yenner gave her a fierce dig, then grabbed Shen Qinglan's hand and walked towards Lady Jingwei. Yenner, don't be so obvious, Shen Qinglan whispered as a reminder. Yenner held on to her arm tightly, trying to suppress her hatred and feeling a little relieved after hearing these words. Grandmother. Shen Qinglan gently pushed aside Yenner's hand and sat next to Madame Tai. Madame Tai touched her head and said with a tearful smile, I didn't expect that my family, Cici Gang and Ji, would get married soon. Time flies so fast. After hearing these words, Yu Yinghui couldn't help but wipe away a tear and said, no, Cici is going to get married. Shen Qinglan saw that her uncle and aunt were also feeling a bit sad, and she couldn't help but feel reluctant. Only her father had an indifferent expression, as if she wanted to marry someone else's daughter instead of his own. Madame Tai, don't be sad. We are all in the city of Luoping. If Cici misses home, she can come back anytime. Our Meng family doesn't have so many rules, and these 2 children share the same heart. Cici will definitely not suffer any injustice in our Meng family. Meng Wu smiled cleverly. Madame Tai smiled lightly and said with a stern face, although our Shen family is a merchant, we are also imperial merchants. We are Cici's legitimate daughter, and your dowry will not be mentioned for the time being. Our Shen family's dowry will definitely be more beneficial. If this is the case, why suffer any injustice? Our 2 families can only split up in one transaction. Madame Tai said it. Meng Wu lowered her head slightly and gritted her teeth secretly. Meng Jingming, who had been silent for a long time, seemed unable to resist wanting to say something, but was pulled back by Meng Wu. Meng Jingming had a cold expression on his face, and when his gaze caught sight of Shen Qingji in the corner, his anger in his heart only slightly subsided. Although the Shen family is crude, their wealth is comparable to that of the country, and they have given birth to a daughter as gentle as Shen Qingji. When he marries Shen Qinglan, he must also bring her sister to the Meng family and enjoy the pleasure of heaven and humanity. This extraordinary wealth will eventually belong to his Meng family. Cici, why do you look unhappy today? Aunt Wang Yume asked. Before Shen Qinglan could speak, she only heard her mother, Yu Yinghui, say, we must be shy, Cici. Alright, you kids, let's go out first. We still have a lot to talk about, Mrs. Tai said. Coming out of the main hall, Shen Qinglan pulled Yenner to the garden. Yenner looked at her angrily and asked, "Miss, why didn't you just withdraw in person? On the spot, what's the reason for getting married? Is it difficult for people from all over Luoping City to accuse our Shen family of being untrustworthy? Our Shen family is a family of merchants, and integrity comes first, not just for temporary pleasure." Shen Qinglan said and sat down on the corridor of the flower hall. "So what should we do?" Yenner cried anxiously. "Didn't you say last night that Meng Jingming and Shen Qingji often had a secret affair? Let's let the whole city of Luoping hear about this good play." Shen Qinglan curled her lips and smiled, as if holding back some bad idea. "But Miss Eyre is always your younger sister, and in that case, it will affect the reputation of all the female relatives of the Shen family. Keeping this Shen Qingji will be a disaster sooner or later. I don't care about reputation or not, it's just up to fate whether we get married or not. We happen to find this reason to drive these two fox charmers out of our family." Upon hearing these words, Yenner suddenly felt a sense of reason, only feeling that the young lady in front of her seemed somewhat different. The young lady from the past was spoiled by her family from a young age, a bit domineering, but she had no idea at all. Now she can think so much. "Mississippi. I didn't expect you to grow so fast." Shen Qinglan looked at Yenner and thought that she should be honest with her about her affairs, so she said solemnly, "Yenner, in fact, I am not your young lady. I have traveled from the future." Yenner was stunned for a moment and touched Shen Qinglan's forehead, saying, "Miss, are you crazy?" Shen Qinglan was speechless. Sometimes the trust between people is so fragile. Anyway, let's just assume she's talking nonsense. No one can believe such things when they are spoken out. Gone. Is it hard to believe that the proportion of time travel is still alive? The entire Shen mansion was immersed in a joyful and harmonious atmosphere. The early spring weather was very lively, with birds singing and willow leaves sprouting. "Brother Jingming, you will become Jie's brother-in-law in the future. Jie wishes you and your sister a long and happy life together, and have a precious son at an early age." By the rockery in the corner of the backyard, Shen Qingji had tears in her eyes and covered her face with her sleeves, as if bidding her final farewell to Meng Jingming. Seeing the gentle appearance of Qingji's younger sister, Meng Jingming's heart felt as if it had been cut by a knife. "Qingji's sister, don't worry, when I marry Shen Qinglan, I will definitely give you a title too." After speaking, Meng Jingming wanted to step forward and pull Shen Qingji's hand. Shen Qingji wanted to refuse and welcome, but took a step back. A pair of affectionate eyes finally shed 2 tears. Although brother Jingming cherishes his younger sister, he is afraid that she will not have that good fortune in the end. "In this Shen family, I will eventually be a commoner girl, constantly being looked down upon by others. In summer, I chop firewood, and in winter, I wash clothes. My younger sister may not be able to hold on for too long." Meng Jingming couldn't hold back and stepped forward with heartache to hold Shen Qingji in his arms. "Sister Qingji, I won't let you wait too long. It's just that the main wife hasn't started yet, so we can't marry a concubine first. As long as we get through it, I will definitely let you live the life you want." "Well, brother Jingming, I believe in you." Shen Qingji leaned against his arms, with a smile on her lips. "What about the legitimate daughter of the legitimate family? What about illegitimate offspring? Shen Qinglan, everything that makes you proud will eventually be taken away by me." End of this chapter. Chapter 3. The Little Prince accidentally enters the backyard. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. The Little Prince accidentally enters the backyard. Yenner has been very busy these days, and everything that Shen Qinglan is not convenient to do has to be done by her. In the afternoon, Shen Qinglan had finished her meal and was resting in the backyard of her own yard. Suddenly, a person quietly approached her and gently caressed her face. Shen Qinglan woke up in shock and almost fell off the porch seat. "Who are you?" She had just fallen asleep and quickly kept her distance from the person. Suddenly, she remembered that her aunt had instructed her to stay honest in her yard for the past few days. It was said that the court had sent an imperial envoy to investigate taxes, but she didn't expect this guy to sneak into the backyard of the house. At this moment, she immediately recalled what Yennefer had said in her mind. It was also at this time in her previous life when officials came to her home to investigate taxes, accompanied by Zhao Sun, the youngest son of Prince Heng. This person is wild and unrestrained, which is absurd and unrestrained in Kyoto. He even threatened to take Shen Qinglan as his concubine, but only gave up because Shen Qinglan had an engagement. In the previous life, Shen Qinglan despised the demeanor of this young prince and humiliated him severely. It is believed that this person also contributed to the defeat of his Shen family. In this life, she must not offend this big shot. Zhao Sun coughed lightly and asked, "Little beauty, what is your name? But is this daughter of the Shen family?" Shen Qinglan raised her head and secretly glanced at him, but this scumbag had a good appearance. Looking at him, who was only 18 or 19 years old, with sword eyebrows and starry eyes, a body like a jade tree, 2 strands of broken hair hanging at his temples, and a ring around his waist as he moved, his gaze at her was somewhat strange. His gaze was complex and profound, like an old friend looking at his old friend, as if he could see through people at a glance. Zhao Sun carried his hands behind his back, with a gentle smile at the corners of his mouth. If it weren't for his unauthorized intrusion into the backyard of a residential building and his behavior towards her, Shen Qinglan wouldn't have seen this guy as a playboy. Being stared at by him with such a gentle smile, Shen Qinglan felt a bit shy, but when she lowered her head, she saw him holding a camellia in his hand. Damn it! Isn't this the mountain tea in her yard? This dog thing. That mountain tea is very rare, and there aren't many flowers blooming in total. Shen Qinglan endured the anger and dissatisfaction in his heart and respectfully replied, "As for the young master, Shen Qinglan, the daughter of the people." Seeing Shen Qinglan's serious demeanor, Zhao Sun seemed somewhat surprised and raised his eyebrows slightly. "How old is this year? Have you ever been married?" Zhao Sun asked. Shen Qinglan nodded and said, "Master Hui, my daughter is 15 years old this year. She has been decided by her elders and has been betrothed to the Meng family of the prefect of Luoping City." The Meng family. Zhao Sun snorted lightly. Meng Jingming and his father are not good things. Okay. Zhao Sun turned around and was about to leave, then turned around and handed the camellia branch in his hand to Shen Qinglan. "This is for you." Shen Qinglan took the flower branch, but her heart was dripping with blood. Such a good thing is so ruined. She couldn't help but mutter, "What is this? Offering Buddha flowers." Zhao Sun had good ear power and didn't go far. Upon hearing this, he stopped and turned to look at her. Shen Qinglan awkwardly bared her teeth and smiled, as the demeanor of a young lady from a wealthy family dissipated in an instant. Realizing the shock on Zhao Sun's expression, she immediately covered her mouth. "It's over, it's over. You're showing off and pretending for nothing. I thought Zhao Sun would be difficult to deal with, but I didn't expect him to turn around and leave." Not long after walking out, Zhao Shan couldn't help but laugh. "This girl is very interesting. Mississippi." After Zhao Sun left, Yennefer hurriedly ran towards Shen Qinglan. "Don't worry, go back to the house and take a sip of water and speak slowly." Upon hearing these words, Yennefer helped her young lady walk towards the house. After taking a few strong sips of water, Yennefer blurted out all the information she had inquired about. These 2 dog men and women colluding in collusion, how could they just openly collude in the bustling city? "I'm so angry. Busy city. Busy city may be a good place for them, they can't be in the wilderness, can they?" After listening to these words, Yennefer was furious and said, "Miss, what are you talking about? You're actually speaking for them." Shen Qinglan smiled and said, "I'm not speaking for them. Think about it carefully. When it comes to a bustling city, it must be all day long with people coming and going, noisy and playful. The two of them are hidden in the bustling city, less likely to be noticed, and meeting each other is more convenient. Not to mention the convenience of the wilderness, it's definitely not that comfortable. The most important thing is that if there is any wind or grass, it will definitely attract more attention. But for us, this must be a good thing. Hem, hum, hum. Yenner's face instantly turned red to the base of her ears, and she thought of their dirty things and became angry again. Don't worry, Mississippi. I have already arranged the people, and they have all signed death contracts in our yard. We will definitely succeed in one fell swoop. Luoping City, Shiping Street is bustling. The carriage walked slowly, and this was the first time Shen Qinglan had come to a place outside the Shen family after crossing the border, naturally full of interest. Yenner looked at her and couldn't help but think of the scene from the previous life. Shen Qinglan married the Meng family for less than 2 months, and her dowry had already bottomed out. You should know that the dowry that their young lady carried at that time was worth tens of thousands of dollars. The Meng family always cried or begged in front of Shen Qinglan, saying that silver was needed to manage everything in the officialdom, and that Meng Jingming had to hire a master from Kyoto for the imperial examination, endlessly. Later on, Shen Qinglan could only speak to her mother's family, but Meng Jingming still accepted Shen Qingji into the door. When Shen Qingji was at the Shen family, she still had a pitiful appearance, and when she turned her head, her face changed. In the 2nd year after marriage, Shen Qingji became pregnant. Shen Qinglan was taking tonics in the snow, but accidentally extinguished the charcoal fire and was beaten hard. Yenner stepped forward to distinguish and was tightly embraced by Shen Qinglan. It's my fault. I'll take responsibility for my own mistakes. You go back to the Shen family tomorrow. No, miss, I'm not leaving. Shen Qingji held her newly bulging belly and looked at them at the warm and radiant door, mocking them, want to leave. It's not that easy. Since you've entered the Meng family's door, that's the Meng family, whether it's you or that lowly maid. Shen Qinglan snorted coldly and said, Meng family. Aren't you from my Shen family? Shen Qingji strode forward and kicked over the charcoal stove in front of them, angrily saying, What Shen family? Does your Shen family treat me like a person? I tell you Shen Qinglan, I hate every one of you Shen family. Does it include my father? Father. He's also worthy. That coward, who keeps saying he hurts my little sister and me, but wants to marry me into a merchant. Why can you, Shen Qinglan, marry me into the prefect's mansion as a daughter.in.law openly and honestly, but I can't? Just because I'm a commoner, your entire Shen family looks down on me and my little sister. I will definitely repay you 100 times and 1,000 times the humiliation of the past, my good sister. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. The Enemies of the Past and the Ties of the Present. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. The Enemies of the Past and the Ties of the Present. The carriage stopped near Tianxiang Pavilion. Just as they got off the car, a scholar dressed up suddenly collapsed in front of them. The people around them all turned a blind eye, as if they were already accustomed to this situation. The scholar grabbed Shen Qinglan's skirt and muttered, unsure of what he was saying. Yenner saw the scholar's face clearly, and in shock, she grabbed Shen Qinglan's arm and pulled her back to the side. Shen Qinglan felt pain and looked at Yenner, just as she met her hateful gaze. What's wrong, who is he? Lu Yunliang. It's him, this name Shen Qinglan has heard Yenner mention before. Lu Yunliang was originally a poor person who was about to starve to death on the street when he was rescued by Shen Qingji. Later, he went to the capital to take the imperial examination and became a jinshi. He was assigned to Luoping as an official. In his previous life, he also wrote a false accusation against the Shen family and was one of the main culprits for their downfall. Miss, there are many of our people ambushed around here. I will immediately have someone throw him out of Luoping City. Yenner said. No way. He is our enemy in the previous life, not in this life. We can't act impulsively. How do you know he won't be used by us in this life? It's better to form a good relationship first and avoid him being used by Shen Qinglan. Shen Qinglan said. The two of them kept talking quietly, and the servants of the Shen family who were originally ambushing in the surrounding area were somewhat restless. They didn't know what their young lady had encountered. Yenner turned around and gave them a look, indicating that they were standing still and waiting for orders, and their suspended hearts finally calmed down. Young master. Young master. Young master. Yenner called out a few times, and after a while, Lu Yunliang opened his eyes in a daze. As soon as he opened his eyes, Lu Yunliang saw a face with rosy lips and pink face shining like spring flowers. In the warm sunshine, her silhouette seemed to be adorned with a layer of gold border, and in a daze, she didn't know whether it was reality or a dream. Young master, have you encountered difficulties? Shen Qinglan gently asked, and Lu Yunliang, who was already hungry and weak, was now so shy that he couldn't say a word. Shen Qinglan smiled and did not continue to ask. She instructed Yenner to help him up and deliver him to a nearby inn. She also instructed the waiter to hire a doctor for him, bring him some food, and pay for a whole month's accommodation. Before leaving, she also left a lot of silver for Lu Yunliang. Seeing that they were about to leave, Lu Yunliang hesitated and said, Mississippi, thank you very much. My surname is Lu, my name is Yunliang. I dare to ask for your name, Mississippi. So that I can have a place to repay my kindness in the future. To repay kindness. Finally, he said this sentence. Although Shen Qinglan was secretly pleased in her heart, her face still had a gentle expression. Before Shen Qinglan could speak, Yenner hurriedly said, My young lady is the legitimate daughter of the Shen family. Thank you very much, Miss Shen. Lu Yunliang also wanted to stay and salute. Shen Qinglan said, You don't have to be polite. I think you look like a scholar. I came from a merchant's family, and I know I'm not popular with books. I hope you can win the title in the future. My family is in the Nanling Mountain Street, Luoping. If you want something in the future, you don't have to worry about it. You can visit me directly. Take a good rest, and Qinglan will leave. After speaking, Shen Qinglan and Yenner left. Lying in bed, Lu Yunliang couldn't help but marvel to himself that there is such a beautiful and compassionate woman in the world. Coming out of the inn, Shen Qinglan was in a great mood. I believe she should have done better than Shen Qinglan did in the previous life. After all, Shen Qinglan's allowance of 10 taels per month was not as generous as her. In the future, Lu Yunliang will be her support. Miss, let's hurry up. We still have some business to attend to today. Yenner urged. Fortunately, this is Tianxiang Pavilion nearby. If we don't hurry any further, Shen Qinglan and Meng Jingming may have to leave. The two of them entered the Tianxiang Pavilion, but little did they know that at this moment, Zhao Sun was drinking tea on the upper floor of the opposite Shubi Tower and happened to see this scene. Zhao Sun curled his lips and chuckled lightly. He knew that the daughter of the Shen family who had recently entered the Tianxiang Pavilion with Meng Jingming. It looks like there's going to be a good show to watch. Shen Qinglan and her companions entered the Tianxiang Pavilion. The waiter of the Tianxiang Pavilion saw Yenner and immediately handed over a sign with the words, Grass grows and birds fly, written on it. They are flying in the grass, Yenner whispered, returning the sign to the shop assistant. Grass grows and birds fly, is a first-class elegant room in Tianxiang Pavilion. The privacy here is very good, and guests usually come here to discuss business or have private meetings with their lovers. Yenner took a full 100 taels from Shen Qinglan before buying this news. Waiter, we need a private room, Yenner said to the shop assistant. Okay, please come inside, both of you. The shop assistant took them to the winding and secluded area on the 3rd floor, where Shen Qinglan and Meng Jingming were located next door. In Yejian, Shen Qinglan ordered a large table of dishes and ate and drank on her own. At this moment, Yenner had no interest in the food on the table and kept listening to the noise from the next door by the wall. When her young lady was enjoying her meal, she did hear the humming sound from the next door. Mississippi. Yenner whispered. Shen Qinglan stopped her chopsticks and looked at her. Yenner blushed and whispered, Let me listen. Shen Qinglan quickly put down her chopsticks and got up to listen to the music by sticking to the wall. Yenner grabbed her and said, Miss, there's nothing nice to hear. It's better to forget about it, so as not to stain your ears. No, I need to make sure if it's really humming. Shen Qinglan couldn't contain the curiosity and excitement in his heart, so he must go and listen. Yenner forcefully grabbed the unpopular young lady at her house and said, It's too late. We need to hurry up. What if they end up humming? Oh, that's right. Shen Qinglan said. Yenner opened the window and gave a glance to the person waiting downstairs. She turned her head and almost pressed Shen Qinglan's ear, but fortunately she stopped in time. Mississippi. Yenner was a bit speechless, and she was about to reach the critical moment. Her young lady was still so carefree, it's really unreliable. Zhou Dashan, who was guarding downstairs, quickly poured half a pot of wine and stumbled up the stairs with 3 or 5 people, shouting loudly, You must tell me. What's wrong with my cousin? Isn't it just that she broke Miss Daw's glass cup? Why do we have to send her to the manor? Where did our Zhou family do anything wrong to their family? I usually work hard for the Shen family, tired like a dog. There is no credit, there is also hard work. Please calm down and speak up if you have anything to say. The shop assistant followed behind, persuading and leading the person to the door of Grass Grows and Orioles Fly. Shen Qinglan. I know you're inside, don't hide. Zhou Dashan kicked open the door of Grass Grows and Orioles Fly, and Shen Qinglan and Yenner heard the sound and quickly knocked open the door of the winding and secluded room. Only Shen Qingji screamed inside the door, followed by Meng Jingming shouting. Bold. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. The people do not fight with officials. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. The people do not fight with officials. What happened? When Yenner helped Shen Qinglan to the door of Grass Changing Fei, Shen Qingji was hiding behind Meng Jingming, hastily putting on clothes, with messy clothes and hairpins scattered. Wow, you have a great figure. Shen Qinglan muttered softly, and Yenner immediately poked her with her elbow. She quickly put on a shocked expression, and then turned from shock to sadness. Sister Ji. Minglang. You. Shen Qinglan tried hard to squeeze out 2 tears, but her acting skills had not yet reached such a high level. She could only cover her face with a handkerchief, sobbing dry, and then quickly ran out. Yenner followed closely behind and casually cursed dog men and women. The commotion here attracted many guests from the private rooms, and everyone gathered around to watch the excitement. Zhou Dashan only knew that he was coming to catch the future uncle's treachery, but little did he know that it was his own second young lady who had an affair with him. Seeing this scene, he was also a bit confused, but he couldn't control so much and could only follow the original plan. Okay, you. Meng Jingming, you just made a marriage agreement with my young lady, and this is such a despicable matter on this trip. In vain, you claim to be a gentleman. How could you secretly engage in promiscuity with people like Gulan and Washa in this Tianxiang pavilion? Zhou Dashan angrily recited his lines, and his acting skills were only slightly better than Shen Qinglan's. The younger brother behind him whispered, Brother Dashan, what kind of Gulan Washa? That's our second young lady. Zhou Dashan gritted his back teeth and replied, You need to talk a lot. Can't he still tell that it's his second young lady? I can only pretend not to see the other person's face, saving the master from blaming me in the future. Anyway, his current role is a drunken and reckless man. Miss, you've messed him up. My surname is Meng. When I return to the mansion, I will definitely tell the master, madam, and madam about your scandal. My young lady, I won't marry someone like you who is a disciple. After Zhou Dashan finished speaking, he quickly took his younger brother and left. Meng Jingming was so angry that he couldn't speak. He didn't even tie his clothes properly and quickly got up and closed the door. Shen Mansion, Wenlan Courtyard. Yenner stood in front of Shen Qinglan, holding a bowl of dark soup medicine. Miss, do you really want to drink? Shen Qinglan has also been doing psychological construction for a long time, but this bowl of medicine must be consumed. At dusk, when Shen Qinglan and the others returned by carriage, they were called to their grandmother's courtyard by Chang's mother beside them. Grandmother didn't know where to get the news from, but surprisingly, she learned everything so quickly. Cece, do you know what's wrong? Shen Qinglan knelt down on the ground and said confidently, Granddaughter, I don't know. They dared to act like this before my wedding. What kind of situation will the granddaughter have after marrying? So the granddaughter must retaliate against them and terminate the engagement with Meng Jingming. Madame Tai angrily gave Shen Qinglan a crutch, but when she saw her beloved granddaughter suffer from pain, she couldn't bear it. It's not wrong for you to want to terminate your engagement, but you shouldn't retaliate like this. Although everything you have done has not fallen into a deliberate name, Qingji is still your sister. Her reputation is damaged. Is there light on your face? My granddaughter doesn't care about these things. Okay, you don't care about these things. Do you know that the people don't fight against the officials? Do you think everything you've done is seamless? Outsiders can't see anything, but their Meng family is not stupid either. Do you know if the Meng family will retaliate against you? They will retaliate against our entire Shen family. Upon hearing these words, Shen Qinglan felt a bit flustered. In the previous life, the downfall of the Shen family was caused by the Meng family. If the Meng family had deliberately plotted to harm them, the Shen family would only have the ability to parry and not fight back. You go back to Wenlan Courtyard first, don't come out unless you have anything to do. Grandma will help you solve this matter. Returning to Wenlan Hospital, shortly after, Chang's mother brought this bowl of medicine, saying that it could make Shen Qinglan sick for a period of time, which may cause some pain, but she had to bear all the consequences. Yenner didn't want her young lady to suffer this kind of pain, so she held the medicine bowl and didn't put it down for a long time. Miss, why does Madame Tai still bring this medicine over? Shen Qinglan sighed slightly and said, we were only seeking revenge and didn't consider the consequences at that time. Grandma just thought through all the solutions. Fortunately, this bowl of medicine didn't harm me much, it just made me weak for a while. It's okay. Miss, do you regret it? Shen Qinglan shook her head and said, of course not. Since we have done it, it will be difficult to bring it back. There is nothing to regret. After only a day, the news of Meng Taisho's legitimate son having an affair with the illegitimate daughter of a merchant spread throughout the streets and alleys of Luoping, becoming a joke among people after tea and dinner. Everyone knows that the Meng family wanted to marry the daughter of the Shen family for the sake of money, and it was not honorable to say so. Now that such a situation has arisen, the good reputation of the Meng family has plummeted for many years, and the governor of Meng has become a laughingstock among the people and colleagues. In the Meng mansion, Meng Yitang, the head of the Meng family and the prefect of Luoping, is teaching his immature son a lesson in the ancestral hall. Meng Jingming knelt on the cold floor, with injuries on his body, but still looked unconvinced. Father. My son has always been careful in his actions. This must have been deliberately designed by the merchant woman of the Shen family to harm him. Meng Yitang raised his hand and slapped him, bastard. If you don't do this filthy thing, can they frame you? Because of the father's reputation, they made you marry the daughter of the Shen family. It's better now. You're adding fuel to the fire. You're an unfilial person. Father. Son. Before Meng Jingming could finish speaking, Meng Yitang interrupted him and said, please shut up. Anyway, we must marry the Shen family. Whether or not I can enter the capital as a father depends on the Shen family's financial resources. You don't need to worry about this matter, just kneel down in the ancestral hall. After Meng Yitang left, Meng Jingming slammed the floor hard, his expression filled with hatred. Shen Qinglan, I really underestimated you. Let's wait and see. Shen Qinglan drank the medicine brought by her grandmother and felt cold all over. Her hands and feet often twitched and she had been bedridden for 5 days. Miss, how are you feeling today? What else can we do? I think it's better for a while now. Shen Qinglan sat up with a bent body, holding the blanket in her arms. Her weak appearance made Yenner feel heartbroken. Madame Tai has such a ruthless heart that she even made Miss drink that kind of thing, Yenner said, tears streaming down her face. I have no choice, my grandmother did this for my own good, otherwise speaking out would always make people doubt me, and my father wouldn't forgive me. Seeing me follow like this, it's not true, it's also true. Shen Qinglan propped up her sick body and got out of bed. She looked at her favorite food on the table, but had no appetite. She only took a steamed bun and lightly bit it. By the way, how are Zhou Dashan and his team doing? Asked Shen Qinglan. The master had someone beat them dozens of sticks, almost disabling them, and the Grand Madam stopped them. Later, the Grand Madam gave them a lot of silver and asked them to go down to the village to hide from the limelight. Well, it's also a burden on them. It's all my fault for not thinking carefully. You can also have someone send my portion to them and let the people in the village take good care of them. Yes. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Meng family's marriage reform to marry a lesser daughter. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Meng family's marriage reform to marry a lesser daughter. Yenner finished the task assigned by Shen Qinglan, and upon returning home, she heard shocking news and quickly ran back to the Wanlan Academy. Miss, do you know? Today, the prefect Meng personally came to the door and changed your engagement with Meng Jingming to second miss. Moreover, the wedding date has been advanced. We will have a wedding this month. Yenner was extremely angry, but her young lady didn't care. Let's just make the changes. It's great, and I can be considered as having resigned as I had hoped. Besides, their affairs have been spread all over the city, so it's normal to get married early. In this way, what have you become? Now it is rumored outside that you are not as good as Miss Air in all aspects. Although you hold a legitimate position, you lack talent and appearance, which makes the legitimate son of the prefect's mansion move on to another love. Moreover, the people of the Meng family say that their family does not care about their status when getting married, but only about the other person's character. What shameless! What kind of character does their family have? It's just relying on their daughter.in.law's dowry. Shen Qinglan took a sip of tea and sneered, this can be considered a win-win situation. Unfortunately, she couldn't drive out the Han family and her daughter. But teaching such a daughter would probably not spare her grandmother, and let Shen Qingji be proud for a few days. I want to see how much dowry she can bring into the Meng family. That's right. The Meng family is going to marry our Shen family just for our money. Shen Qingji and her little sister, Han Shi, can't offer you such a generous dowry. Yenner smiled. The Meng family has no way out. If something happens like this, at least they will have to save their face. Otherwise, they will be caught by someone and have no hope of entering the capital in their lifetime. They will lose all their official positions. So they cannot really withdraw from the Shen family, they can only switch people. Yenner nodded, feeling that her young lady had a higher image in her heart. Not long after, the maid outside spread a message that Shen Qingji had arrived. Sister. Shen Qingji ran to Shen Qinglan as soon as she entered the door, grabbed her hand and cried. Sister, I heard that my sister is very ill. My sister has not been able to visit, so I still ask her to punish me. But my sister is also forced. Yenna really wanted to slap Shen Qinglan, but she held back. Miss Eyre has such a good marriage, and it's fresh to say that she was forced by someone. It's hard for cows to have horns without drinking water. Can't Miss Eyre understand this truth? Shen Qinglan entrusted Chu Baba to take a glance at Yenna, then quickly turned to Shen Qinglan, tears streaming down her face. My sister blamed me wrong. It's all Ming Lang, no, it's Meng Jingming. When I see him, my younger sister can't help it. He said, if I'm not with him, I'll cancel my engagement with my sister. My younger sister knows that my sister and the elders in the family value this marriage very much, so she dare not violate him. My grandmother has already punished me by kneeling in the temple for 3 days before my sister can go down to the ground, so she hurriedly came to see her. I know that my sister loves me the most in her daily life, so she must know the pain in her heart. Shen Qinglan's eyebrows and eyes drooped, and her expression suddenly became sad. Upon seeing the appearance of her own young lady, Yenna immediately panicked. Miss must have softened her heart. Shen Qinglan was also secretly proud that her legitimate sister was easy to deceive. Shen Qinglan's heart is also bitter. When will her acting skills reach the level of Shen Qinglan? Saying to shed tears and then shedding tears is simply amazing, like a special ability. Since Miss Eyre is so unwilling, why not cancel the marriage? By the way, I would like to inform Quan Luoping that you have been forced into helplessness. I believe the elders and ladies at home can also understand. Yenna couldn't stand Shen Qinglan's pretentious demeanor, and coupled with her own young lady being unable to help her, she had no choice but to confront this slut on her own. No, sister, you can't do that. You are a perfect sister, and everything will be taken away. In that case, you will be destroyed all your life. Sister, I just want you to forgive me. Shen Qinglan knelt down directly and looked eagerly at Shen Qinglan. Shen Qinglan sighed and helped Shen Qinglan up. The matter has come to this point, and I don't have anything to blame you for. Your marriage is good, and I believe it will be safe and smooth. Upon hearing these words, Shen Qinglan cried even more fiercely. Shen Qinglan couldn't help but frown. How could this little girl keep going? Sister, although my younger sister is not intelligent, I also know that the Shen family can marry the Meng family because of our financial resources. However, my younger sister is just a commoner, and my younger sister comes from a small family background. Not like you, sister. I have very little dowry to bring, and marrying into the Meng family like this will be looked down upon by the Meng family. How will my younger sister live in the future? Okay, it's like crying out for poverty. Shen Qinglan and Yenna exchanged a glance and expressed their utmost silence. Sister, stop crying. The crying sister feels sorry for her. How should she help you? Upon hearing Shen Qinglan's words, Shen Qinglan immediately wiped away her tears and almost couldn't hold back her smile. Then she cried and said, my younger sister knows that second lady has already prepared a generous dowry for her sister, and the elders in the family have also added a lot. Second lady's mother's family is also a famous wealthy family in Hayang City. If sister can share half of the dowry with her younger sister, that's all. Half. Shen Qinglan and Yenna looked at each other again. This guy is too shameless. Just as Yenna was about to scold her, she hurriedly said, I can't split it in half, 1/3, no. A quarter is also okay. Please have mercy on my sister. Speaking, this guy started crying again. Why bother? You stole our young lady's fiancée and asked her to distribute the dowry to you. How could you be like this in the world? I don't know. Okay. Yenna was filled with righteous indignation, and before she could even express her shame, she was interrupted by Shen Qinglan. She looked at Shen Qinglan incredulously, feeling surprised and puzzled in her heart. They are all sisters of their own family, and there is no need to divide them. Yenna, you are not allowed to talk to second young lady like that. Shen Qinglan looked at Shen Qingji with a smile and took her hand. Sister, I knew my sister was the one who loved me the most in this family. Shen Qingji wiped away her tears, and Shen Qinglan took the opportunity to whiten her eyes. Sister, I know that marrying like this will be looked down upon by the people of the Meng family, but I can't make the decision on this dowry myself, especially with the delicate gold and silver, and various types of furniture, all based on quantity. Alright, I'll give you a portion of the land and storefront, so that your future life can be guaranteed and you won't be left empty-handed. I'm sure the family will also buy some for you. Thank you, sister. Sister's kindness, sister will never forget until she dies. Shen Qingji hugged Shen Qinglan and her heart was filled with joy. These xuanzi and storefronts all generate money every month, much stronger than dead objects. Sister, why bother being polite to me? I'm just like you. Although I wasn't born to the same mother, I grew up together. When did my sister treat you unfairly? Alright, don't cry anymore. It's about time for your big day. If you cry like this, you won't be beautiful anymore. Shen Qinglan's acting skills have greatly improved. This scene just now is simply flawless, exuding a virtuous demeanor. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Encountering bandits on the road and difficulty in escaping from difficulties. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Encountering bandits on the road and difficulty in escaping from difficulties. After Shen Qingji left, Yenner couldn't help but ask, Mississippi. You're crazy. You really gave her the dowry. And she's too shameless, isn't she? Such words can be spoken out loud. There are few shameless people like her in this world. Shen Qinglan poured a glass of water for Yenner and herself, and said, It's really shameless. Why did you agree to share the xuanzi shop with her? She also deserves it. Sit down and have a sip of tea. Shen Qinglan pulled Yenner down and placed the water glass in front of her. Seeing her reaction, Shen Qinglan couldn't help but laugh. Sure enough, my acting skills are ready to graduate. Yenner just took a sip of water and saw Shen Qinglan smile, almost choking herself. Miss, you're still laughing. I'm laughing at Shen Qingji's foolishness. It seems like I just performed well. Yenner was confused and said, What do you mean? I don't understand. Think about it, these gold, silver, jewelry, silk and satin utensils are all real money. But xuanzi's storefront is not necessarily the same. With so many fields and storefronts in our family, we can't all make a profit. Moreover, the ones my mother married with us, as well as the ones my aunt married with us, have been neglected for a long time, and it's uncertain what they will be like now. After listening to Shen Qinglan's explanation, Yenner suddenly realized. That's right. If you give these storefront properties to Miss Eyre as a dowry, maybe she won't be able to make any money, and she'll owe a debt and get involved in a lawsuit. Haha. Miss, your move is really amazing. In the past few days, I have sorted out all the poorly managed, disputed, and ruffian fields and shops, and sent them to accompany Shen Qingji to marry. Before she gets married, I will take her to the government to transfer ownership and record it, so that she won't be able to refuse even if she wants to. A few days before Shen Qingji got married, Shen Qinglan woke up early every day and pretended to go to the temple to burn incense in order to prevent her from constantly pestering her and fearing that problems with those shops would be discovered by her in advance. On the carriage, Shen Qinglan kept yawning and muttering, I'm so tired. Yenner comforted and said, Miss, if you hold on for another 2 days, we will go to the Yusi Yamen and transfer those shops to Miss Eyre. We won't have to work so hard then. Early in the morning, the carriage had just entered the mountain road and soon stopped. A group of bandits stopped the carriage, led by a burly, malevolent black-faced man. Get off the car. Yenner grabbed Shen Qinglan's hand and panicked, saying, It seems like a mountain bandit. The intruder is not kind. Miss, please change your clothes with me quickly. Shen Qinglan breathed a sigh and said, it's useless. I didn't expect revenge to come so quickly. Revenge. Do you think? These people were sent by the Meng family. Yenner is extremely afraid. There are bandits in front and behind, and on both sides of the road are deep mountains, with nowhere to escape. What do you think? The road we are walking on is an official road. For many years, there have been no bandits on our official road in Luoping, so merchants' exchanges have become prosperous. In fact, Shen Qinglan is also very afraid. The other party is nothing but for wealth, and falling into the hands of these bandits will ultimately harm the reputation of her daughter's family, so she can only make a deal with them. Also. Miss, then. Get off the car, you can't escape. Ah. Yenner helped Shen Qinglan out of the car, but now her body is still a bit weak and unable to withstand too much turmoil. Hero, may I ask what's blocking the way? Shen Qinglan weakly lifted her head to look at the black-faced man, who was stunned. This little girl was as beautiful as a person walking out of a New Year painting. We, the head of the family, want to invite the young lady to be the village suppression lady, said the skinny little man beside the black-faced man. After speaking, everyone burst into laughter and commotion. Upon hearing these words, the black-faced man appeared somewhat shy, and his gaze, which had been staring blankly at Shen Qinglan, dodged. Yenner tightly grabbed Shen Qinglan's hand and was about to say something when she pulled her back. Shen Qinglan bowed slightly to the crowd, but upon seeing this scene, the noisy crowd quieted down. The powerful and domineering head of the family doesn't have any kind of beauty she wants. I'm afraid a yellow-haired girl like me won't be worthy of you. Besides, I already have an engagement, Shen Qinglan said. Who are you fooling? The whole Luoping knows you just got divorced, said the skinny little one. After the little skinny man finished speaking, the black-faced man turned his head and glared at him. Shen Qinglan smiled slightly. It seemed that she had guessed right. If you say that, I believe the heroes are entrusted by others. Shen Qinglan asked. The black-faced man remained silent, but she bowed again and continued, although I am young and inexperienced, I know how to be entrusted with loyalty and do not want all the heroes to make things difficult. I am willing to give you 500 taels of gold so that the heroes can explain to you. 500 taels of gold. The Shen family is indeed wealthy. I've never seen so much gold in my life. Big brother, what do you think? The bandits were discussing one after another, and the black-faced man remained silent with a pale expression. If we just let it go, it would be difficult to explain to the other side. Are you inexperienced in the world? You just lied to us that you have an engagement, but who knows what you're saying now doesn't count, said the skinny guy. That's right, you just make a verbal promise and want to dismiss us, it's not that simple. The black-faced man finally spoke up. The little girl didn't lie just now. Although my engagement with the Meng prefect's family has been terminated, I have been arranged to marry the only son of the Marquis of Nanyang by the elders in the family. As soon as Shen Qinglan said these words, Yenner was stunned on the spot. Nanyang Marquis's only son. Little Marquis. However, she immediately realized that since the Meng family had come to rob these people, she needed to find someone with a higher official position than the Meng prefect to shock them. The Marquis of Nanyang is the largest official in Luoping. Marquis of Nanyang. Do you think I would believe it? How could Marquis of Nanyang let his only son marry a merchant girl? The black-faced man didn't believe what Shen Qinglan said. My illegitimate sisters can all marry into the prefect's mansion. How can I not marry the Marquis? Our Shen family is a true merchant, but we are also wealthy enough to rival our country. As soon as Shen Qinglan said this, everyone suddenly felt reasonable. Which official doesn't want to climb up these days? If you want to climb up, you need money. Moreover, Marquis Nanyang has been a meritorious figure for generations and does not care whether the person she marries will affect her family status. Her words are also credible. My grandmother comes from a general family background. Although she has declined, she also has some connections with the noble family. If you don't believe it, you can send someone to investigate at the Marquis' mansion in Nanyang. Shen Qinglan said again. Originally, everyone still had some doubts, but Shen Qinglan's words dispelled their doubts. The Marquis of Nanyang was not something they could afford to offend, nor was it something that Governor Meng could afford to offend. After speaking, Shen Qinglan gave Yenner a glance, and Yenner immediately brought out the golden ticket and respectfully handed it to the person next to her. Fortunately, she spent a lot of money on outdoor decoration. These 500 taels of gold tickets were still New Year's money given by her grandmother years ago. Shen Qinglan couldn't help but secretly sigh, money is really good. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. The Little Marquis of Nanyang Marquis' Mansion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. The Little Marquis of Nanyang Marquis' Mansion. While the black-faced man was hesitating with a golden ticket, a mountain bandit who was ambushing behind rushed over and whispered a few words in his ear. Little girl, it's best for you to tell the truth. Goodbye, the black-faced man led his men to evacuate, and Shen Qinglan noticed that several mountain bandits had been guarding the bushes by the roadside and did not leave. Yenner breathed a sigh of relief and said, the leader with the surname Du should be from Chia village. I've heard people mention it before, and it seems like his name is Du Yunkue. After finishing speaking, a carriage slowly arrived, and Yenner immediately panicked when she saw the words on the carriage lantern. It's the carriage of Nanyang Marquis' mansion. Shen Qinglan frowned. No wonder the people in Chia village said they had withdrawn and hid to spy. It turned out that the main leader of Nanyang Marquis' mansion had arrived. It's over, face up in front of you. You get on our carriage and leave, don't worry about me. Shen Qinglan gave Yenner a push, but Yenner was not at ease. How can this work? If it's not possible, it's also possible. Everyone in our family knows we've come out, and when we leave the city gate, many people see our carriage. This carriage must go back safely before dusk, there's no need to say more, you should leave quickly. In the midst of his words, the carriage of the Marquis of Nanyang came to him. Shen Qinglan lifted her skirt and followed up, stopping the carriage. Before the groom could react, she panicked and got into the carriage. The person in the car frowned and was very unhappy when they saw someone coming in. They were about to ask what was going on when Shen Qinglan, who was lying in the carriage, lifted her head and looked pitiful. Help, there are robbers. Where did the robber come from? The person saw Shen Qinglan dressed appropriately, although he looked panicked, he didn't look like he had encountered a robber. Shen Qinglan got up and sat opposite him. The person noticed the jade pendant around her waist and carefully looked at her face. It turned out to be her. Shen Qinglan clasped her hands together and looked at the young man in front of her, saying, You also want to go to the Qing temple. Can you take me on a journey? Let's go. The boy said to the driver, and the carriage slowly started moving. He lifted the curtain and glanced out, and indeed a figure flashed through the bushes. Shen Qinglan was already weak due to taking medication, and now she is even more panting. She thought to herself that this delicate body should also be well nurtured and exercised. After stabilizing, she looked across again. The young man sitting in front of her at this moment is only 16 or 17 years old, dressed in brocade and silk, with a handsome face and starry eyes, exuding a spirited and energetic demeanor. Judging from his attire and age, he should be the only son of Marquis Nanyang, the young Marquis Mu Xingze. Thinking of this name, some memories flooded into my mind. Shen Qinglan and Mu Xingze met when they were young. During their enlightenment, Shen Qinglan and Mu Xingze studied together in the academy. In addition, the two grandmothers had some friendship and often played together. However, Mu Xingze's grandmother passed away 4 years ago and had no contact since then. Little Marquis, long time no see. After being stunned for a long time, Shen Qinglan finally said this sentence. Mu Xingze snorted lightly, as if somewhat disdainful. Shen Qinglan couldn't help but pounce when she saw his arrogant expression, which was different from his childhood. You just said you encountered a robber, what happened? Asked Mu Xingze. Oh, they were just seeking wealth. I gave them 500 taels of gold, and they left, Shen Qinglan explained. Mu Xingze did not believe her words. Luoping City has always been peaceful and prosperous. What kind of robbers dare to rob on official roads? I'm afraid it's because of Shen Qinglan's withdrawal from marriage a while ago. Did you divorce? Mu Xingze asked again. Yeah, but for our family, it's not considered a divorce, it's a remarriage. Shen Qinglan's answer was calm and indifferent, and there was no sign of sadness. Mu Xingze chuckled lightly. How did this girl change her personality? I remember you said before that only Meng Jingming would not marry, but now you are watching him fall into someone else's hands. Shen Qinglan knew that Mu Xingze was mocking her, but she didn't care either. Since Meng Jingming and Shen Qingji are inseparable, I don't want to be the villain who beats the mandarin ducks with a stick. Let's just leave it to fate. Shen Qinglan closed her eyes slightly and leaned against the carriage. She had already woken up early, and her body was weak. After the fright and turmoil just now, she was a bit overwhelmed. Mu Xingze looked at the person in front of him, with willow leaves and long eyebrows, curled eyelashes, a flushed face, and delicate skin that seemed to be able to pinch water. In her 18th year of college, a woman's appearance has become more beautiful than when she was a child, but it seems that her temperament is slightly different. Yes, after these years, I believe this girl has also experienced a lot. The once crying coquettish guy always looked arrogant, but now he has finally become more stable. Walking onto the mountain road, the carriage suddenly jolted and Shen Qinglan stumbled towards Mu Xingze. Mu Xingze caught her, and when he smelled the faint fragrance of jasmine on her, his heart couldn't help but beat. Shen Qinglan. Mu Xingze accidentally caught her wrist because he had seen many medical techniques and also understood some of them. When he felt his pulse, his eyebrows tightened. Shen Qinglan, how are you? Mu Xingze ordered the carriage to arrive at a remote Taoist temple not far from Deqing Temple as soon as possible. There was a Taoist practicing medicine here, and it was Mu Xingze's uncle Jiang Jinyan. Uncle, please help her quickly. She is very weak and has been unconscious for a while. No matter how she calls, she can't wake up. Mu Xingze carried Shen Qinglan into the room and placed him on the consultation table. Jiang Jinyan sat calmly in the hall and took a sip of tea. Little Marquis, this is the Taoist temple. Please call me the Dharma name of the poor Taoist, he said. Mu Xingze breathed a sigh of relief and bowed, Master Shuyuan. Jiang Jinyan put down his tea, got up, squinted his eyes, and glanced at Shen Qinglan, then stroked his just left 1-inch beard. Oh, isn't this the little girl of the Shen family? She's much more beautiful than when she was a child. I remember when she was full moon, I went to drink full moon wine. This child is so ugly. Jiang Jinyan looked at Mu Xingze and then at Shen Qinglan, with a look of, you two have something to do. Uncle. Master Shuyuan, don't think so. We only met occasionally on the way, Mu Xingze quickly explained. Oh. It's a pity, but my stubborn sister probably won't agree to you being together. Mu Xingze was a bit speechless. Even though his uncle is from a Taoist family, he is still so unscrupulous. Taoist, what's going on with her? Asked Mu Xingze. Jiang Jinyan returned to his seat and picked up the tea bowl again. Seeing Mu Xingze anxious, he chuckled lightly. She's not physically weak, she's poisoned. Poisoned? What kind of poison? How could that be? This kind of poison is called corroding bones. It is said to be poisonous, but it is actually a kind of medicine. Many people call it putting her to death and rebirth. Don't worry, this girl is weak now. When the toxicity is gone, she will be healthier than before. As for what's going on, you can ask her later. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. The bamboo grove in the Hillside Taoist temple is green. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 9 Hillside Taoist Temple. Green bamboo forest. When Shen Qinglan woke up, it was already afternoon, and Mu Xingze beside him was reading a book, with a youthful and humble demeanor. In the original owner's memory, he was still a little crying bag following his grandmother, often being provoked to cry by her. Little Marquis. Shen Qinglan sat up, feeling as if her body had fallen apart, but her spirit had improved significantly. Mu Xingze put down his book and stood up, saying, "There's no fast here. If you're going hungry, you'll have to go to the nearby Diqing temple. Since you're already awake, I'll leave first." Little Marquis. Shen Qinglan stopped him and stood up to salute. "Thank you very much for saving your life, little Marquis." Mu Xingze glanced at her and quickly averted his gaze. Shen Qinglan glanced at himself, realizing that his belt was a bit loose. She quickly tidied up her clothes and said, "Little Marquis, I don't know where this is. Could you please take me to Diqing temple? My carriage should be there." "Okay." Mu Xingze led Shen Qinglan towards the direction of Diqing temple. To avoid suspicion, he also had the groom drive the carriage ahead of time. The mountain road is difficult to walk on, and the moss on the stone slab feels a bit slippery. Shen Qinglan has always been afraid of heights, so she walks extra carefully. Mu Xingze was not in a hurry either, he just kept a certain distance from her. Although this step is not high, it is also remote and difficult to walk. I don't know how Mu Xingze got her to this place. "Little Marquis, this road is so steep, aren't you carrying me on your back?" Upon hearing this, Mu Xingze was taken aback. As he tilted his face slightly, Shen Qinglan noticed that his cheeks were slightly flushed. She did not continue to inquire, and seeing his reaction confirmed her hypothesis. "This place is remote and difficult to travel, why didn't the young Marquis take me directly to Diqing temple?" Shen Qinglan turned to ask. "This originally belonged to the Diqing temple, and a Taoist in the temple practiced here. He understood medical skills," replied Mu Xingze. "Is it Master Xiuyuan? I have heard someone mention it before. It is said that this Taoist has outstanding medical skills and can cure many difficult and complicated diseases, but his temperament is a bit strange." Shen Qinglan glanced at the Taoist temple behind her, and when she turned around, she almost fell. Fortunately, Mu Xingze extended his arm in time to block her in front. She grabbed Mu Xingze's arm and was scared out in a cold sweat. Although it wasn't as high here, she still felt a bit scared. "Thank you very much." Mu Xingze continued to walk downwards, but this time he walked even slower. "Did the Taoist say I have any illness?" Shen Qinglan asked again, worried that her medication had already been discovered. "You have a clear idea." Mu Xingze glanced at her, but couldn't help but ask, "Why poison yourself?" Shen Qinglan breathed a sigh of relief and said, "It's not me who poisoned myself, it's my grandmother. She's afraid of the Meng family's retaliation and also afraid of people's words. Even so, if there are robbers on the official road, it seems that this revenge has still come," Mu Xingze said. Shen Qinglan didn't expect this guy to be quite clever, and immediately saw the problem. But he must have never imagined that it was because he told the robber that they had an engagement that they successfully escaped danger. After descending the mountain road, one still needs to pass through a bamboo forest to reach the side gate of Diqing temple. There are few people coming and going here, and pilgrims usually only walk through the main gate. As she approached the door, Shen Qinglan noticed figures in the grass of the bamboo forest and thought to herself that these people were still unwilling to give up. They've all come here. I can't fool them without giving them some hard work. "Brother Xingze. Don't walk so fast, my legs are sore." Shen Qinglan coquettishly approached and hugged Mu Xingze's arm. The fragrant jasmine fragrance came again, and Mu Xingze's body stiffened. He was about to shake her off when she whispered, "Little Marquis, help me, please." Mu Xingze was surprised and was about to ask for the reason when a person emerged from the nearby grass, a young Taoist who was only 10 years old. The little Taoist was holding a few flour cakes in his hand, seemingly hiding here to steal them. "What are you doing?" The little Taoist walked out and tilted his head to look at the two people in front of him. "It's you." Seeing the appearance of the young Taoist, Mu Xingze quickly pulled out his arm. "Little Marquis, why are you arguing with this beautiful sister?" Mu Xingze looked at Shen Qinglan, "Meaning you could explain why you were arguing with me." Shen Qinglan awkwardly smiled and quickly changed the topic, asking, "Do you know this lovely little Taoist? He is the junior disciple of Master Xiuyuan, with the Dharma name Yucheng. I see, I have seen Taoist Yucheng before." Shen Qinglan bowed briefly to the little Taoist, but he just blinked his two round little eyes as he looked at them, as if waiting for the answer to the question. Shen Qinglan pointed to the grass next to him and muttered, "Just now a snake crawled over. I was a bit scared, so I grabbed the little Marquis." The little Taoist nodded and said, "Snakes often appear in this bamboo forest. Sister, be careful. Thank you for the reminder." Shen Qinglan took a deep breath. The little one was so elusive that she was startled. The current scene was really awkward. "Little Marquis, is this beautiful sister your crush?" "I've seen it all. Sister just took your arm and your face turned red to the bottom of your ear." The young Taoist's words were astonishing, and Shen Qinglan felt even more embarrassed. "Please. Don't be so clever anymore." "No, you misunderstood," explained Mu Xingze. "Ah. But my master once said that regardless of gender, people will blush when they see their loved ones." The little Taoist scratched his head, looking puzzled. His face was chubby, but cute and tight. "Well, let's go quickly. I'm starving to death. Little Taoist Yucheng, we have a chance to see each other again." Shen Qinglan took the lead in entering the secluded gate of Diqing Temple, and Mu Xingze followed behind her calmly. Upon arriving at the door, Shen Qinglan said, "Little Marquis, thank you for your life-saving kindness. You don't need to be polite, it's just a matter of hands." After Mu Xingze finished speaking, he left directly. The words of the young Taoist Yucheng just now made the two of them truly embarrassed. Shen Qinglan didn't go far. Just as he turned into the alley, he met Meng Jingming and his servants. Meng Jingming had a cold expression on his face. It wasn't long before Mu Xingze left this door, and Shen Qinglan also walked out. It seemed that their relationship was indeed extraordinary. "Shen Qinglan, long time no see." Meng Jingming stood in front of Shen Qinglan and saw her dressed in plain clothes, with no other accessories except for a jade hairpin on her head, like a fairy emerging from the dust. He disliked Shen Qinglan's emerald and precious vulgar colors the most on weekdays, like a porcelain doll walking out of a New Year painting. Now it seems that it has become much more pleasing to the eye, lacking childlike innocence and adding a touch of femininity. At the moment Shen Qinglan saw him, her resentment surged out of her heart, and her face, which had originally been beaming with joy, suddenly became cold. "I have met Mr. Meng." Shen Qinglan slightly lowered her jaw and wanted to leave directly, but Meng Jingming refused to let go. "Shen Qinglan, are you here at Diqing Temple to seek marriage? Are you coming to the wrong place?" End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Definitely returned in the future. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Definitely returned in the future. Meng Jingming has changed his previous style. He used to pretend, but now he is too lazy to pretend. Recalling his past vows of loyalty, Shen Qinglan now only feels nauseous. This kind of person can really blurt out any oath and even change their face to disgust others here afterwards. "Master Meng, I'm not here to seek marriage, I just want to ask a real person to ensure the safety of my family," said Shen Qinglan. Mississippi. Yenna wandered around in the temple for a long time, finally finding her own young lady. Seeing that Meng Jingming seemed to be going against her, she quickly ran towards her. "Miss, how are you? Are you okay?" Yenner asked. "I'm fine." Shen Qinglan patted Yenner's hand, indicating that she shouldn't be nervous. "This is Diqing Temple, where people come and go. I believe Meng Jingming wouldn't dare to act recklessly." Yenner looked towards Meng Jingming and saw her old friend from the previous life at a glance. That person is the servant behind Meng Jingming, Yifeng. At this time, Yifeng was only 13 years old, 2 years younger than Yenner. His body was thin and weak, and his skin was pale, always hiding behind the crowd. Qinglan's younger sister is indeed filial and never forgets her family. According to Xi's younger sister, you should give her your dowry. Meng Jingming said this, and Shen Qinglan and Yenner were both a bit flustered. This guy probably knows something, right? Although Qingxi's younger sister is not my mother's compatriot, she is still my blood relative. I don't want her to have any difficulties after marriage. I just want her to live a safe life and hope that the young master will show mercy. Shen Qinglan said. This is natural. I didn't expect that Qinglan's younger sister used to look domineering and flamboyant, but she was still a reasonable person, Meng Jingming said. Upon hearing what he said, both Shen Qinglan and Yenner felt relieved, as it seemed that he had no doubts about the dowry matter. Qinglan's personality has changed greatly, and she must be closely related to the matter of remarriage. Although my sister's reputation has been damaged, she is also my aunt Meng Jingming, and I can't bear her to be in the midst of others' discussions. Alright, when Qingxi enters the house, I will take you into the mansion and elevate you to be my wife. How about that? Meng Jingming held high his toes and seemed to be showing mercy to Shen Qinglan, finding her a good way out. Shen Qinglan's teeth were itching with anger, wishing to scratch her face. Yen Er beside her was even more furious. Just as she was about to point her nose at it and curse at him, she was grabbed by Shen Qinglan. Seeing that Shen Qinglan remained silent, Meng Jingming snorted coldly and said, although you are not as obedient as your sister, you are not as gentle and sensible, but you have a decent birth. Although your wife is not considered a legitimate wife, she is still worthy of your status as a merchant woman. With your current reputation, even fishermen and farmers should be a bit wary. If you really have the courage, it is only for your dowry. Qinglan's sister, what do you think? Yenner couldn't bear it anymore and cursed, you're such an ignorant disciple. Who do you think you are? You still want to marry my young lady as a concubine. You deserve it too. Others do it for the dowry, aren't you? Don't make yourself so noble. Shen Qinglan didn't hold on to Yenner. At this moment, there were many people on the other side. Although Meng Jingming had some taboos about this place, if he angered him, it wouldn't benefit them either. Meng Jingming's angry eyes widened and he looked fiercely at Yenner, then at Shen Qinglan, saying, Qinglan's sister, you won't teach me a lesson. I'll help you. Meng Jingming waved his hand, and the servants behind him rushed forward, pushing Shen Qinglan away and grabbing Yenner. Only Yifeng remained motionless. He was pure-hearted and looked at Yen Er, who was frightened. He took the risk of being beaten and approached with fear, persuading, young master, this is a Taoist temple. There are many people and diverse eyes, but we should. Shut up. When will it be your turn to teach me a lesson? Meng Jingming slapped Yifeng and then approached Yenner. Yenner was being held up by numerous servants, unable to move at all. Shen Qinglan quickly approached to protect her, but was also stopped by Meng Jingming's servants. There were many of them, and Yenner and Shen Qinglan, two weak women, were completely helpless. Meng Jingming stared fiercely at Yenner, took the whip handed over by the servant, and the whip fell, leaving blood marks on Yenner's body. Shen Qinglan felt extremely heartbroken, feeling as if the whip had landed on her. At this moment, she couldn't care too much anymore and shouted, help, at the top of her voice. However, after shouting a few times, she was covered by a servant dog. Shen Qinglan bit the guy and shouted, Meng Jingming has killed someone. Meng Jingming glared at Shen Qinglan the servant and cursed, useless thing. Block her mouth for me. Cough cough. At this moment, two people appeared in the alley. One of them was Zhao Sun, while the other was dressed up as a scholar, looking around 30 years old. Brother Mian, your Luoping city is indeed a series of good performances. What are you doing? Upon hearing Zhao Sun's nickname, Shen Qinglan realized that this scholar was Qi Mian. Qi Mian was a master in the Sanfang Academy in Luoping City, also a teacher of Meng Jingming, and a staff member of the Marquis of Nanyang. Meng Jingming's servants quickly let go of Shen Qinglan and Yenner, and Zhao Sun glanced at them before finally turning his gaze to Meng Jingming. Oh! Isn't this Meng Jingming, the son of Meng Gongzi? Is this robbing a commoner's daughter in broad daylight in the Taoist temple? Although Zhao Sun's tone was not sharp, it was full of sarcasm. Meng Jingming's legs became weak and he knelt down on the ground, along with his servants. This is Deqing Temple. I am not a Sanqing real person, and I cannot afford such a great gift from Master Meng. Master Meng, please do it yourself, Zhao Ying said. Little prince. Meng Jingming wanted to explain something else, but Zhao Sun and Qi Mian ignored it and left directly. Brother Mian, I heard that the Yuquilin in Deqing Temple is very famous. Let's go take a look together. Please, young prince. After Zhao Sun and the others left, Meng Jingming stood up with the help of the servants. Seeing his pitiful appearance, Shen Qinglan couldn't help but sneer. This kind of bully and cowardly dog thing was fortunately given to Shen Qingji, and she really had no luck enjoying it. Shen Qinglan, you too are lucky. Meng Jingming angrily led the people away, and Shen Qinglan quickly checked Yenner's injury. Fortunately, it didn't hurt her face, but the whip wound on her body was not mild. Yenner, it must be very painful. It's all my fault that caused you and me to suffer like this. Shen Qinglan felt sorry for Yenner's injury, but Yenner didn't care. She only felt very happy just now when she saw Meng Jingming's low profile. Miss, I'm fine. Meng Jingming is really deceiving others. Fortunately, your engagement has been cancelled, otherwise I would have found a chance to kill this bastard. Yenner was so excited that she pulled a whip wound on her shoulder and couldn't help but frown. Don't worry Yenner, I have taken note of this grudge and will definitely repay it someday. End of this chapter.